All right. Hey, everybody. So welcome to the FFL Solidity team call every Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern. So we do have a very special guest with us today. We have Paul McClain with us. So super excited and just thankful to have him on the call today. I don't think there's really a better way to go ahead and start the new year than from hearing from Paul himself. And just kind of some things that we can do and tactfully going into the new year. And not only looking at it like it's a new month, it's a new year, but really just kind of looking out for the long haul, so to say, of what Family First has to offer and provide. Because in this business, we can sometimes go into a funk of thinking day to day or week to week and only looking at that small result and not really taking a look at that bigger picture, so to say. So we always want to keep that in front of us. With that being said, Paul will be on in just a second here with us. And after that, we'll wrap up with some recognition and a little bit of just training in terms of mortgage protection with some older clients. Hey, Paul, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for being on with us today. It
Hey,
doesn't go unappreciated.
well, I'll tell you what, it's my honor and my privilege to be on with you guys each month. And it's one of the days that I value the most is being able to hop on here and to do my best to provide some value for you guys. And I hope I do that with you the next 25, 30 minutes. And, first of all, hey, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022. That's exciting. It's a new year. And so it's kind of like I've always said in this business, like every week it's a new week, right? And so it's like the ones that understand that last week's gone. And the ones that had a great week last week and they bring that into the next week, like, oh my gosh, they over celebrate. Well, typically that causes you to lower down your intensity, causes you to compromise more. Like, well, I killed it so much last week. So this week, I know I usually dial until 9 p.m., but I'm going to dial until 8:30. I'm going to dial until 8. All right, you know what? I had such a good week last week. I mean, I don't know if these clients don't know who I am, but I was a 10K producer last week. So like, you know what? I'm just going to chill out on them. They need to figure it out. And I'm kind of being funny with it, but I mean, that's how most people screw up. Or the last week they just didn't have the results they wanted, right? Maybe they made some new decisions. Like, I'm going to invest more in leads than I ever have. And they got the same result as they did when they invested less in leads. And they start bringing that in the new week with discouragement or doubt. And maybe this wasn't working. And they start working from emotion and feeling, not logic, because logic says, like, that's a great thing. If you got smoked last week, buckle up and have a great expectation that this week's going to be phenomenal because numbers are numbers. And so I think what most people, so if you want to have a big year, first of all, the first thing is you got to understand that every week you start off and you're unemployed. I know that's not an exciting thing, but it's a reality. Like, you're unemployed. Like whatever happened last week, it's all new again. Right. And so that's when most people, if I look at the organization, I have the benefit. I think the biggest blessing I've got is simply a really great vantage point of seeing all the producers and managers and working with all the top people within the company. I mean, the West Coast hierarchy makes up over 60% of the organization. So I get to see the ones that are crushing what they're doing and the ones that are not, what they're doing, and the ones that used to and that are no longer what they're doing. And so I have the ability to take that, and I feel like my what I'm privileged to do and obligated to do is to pass it on to you guys, so you have the best ability to go out there and do what works and to not do what doesn't work. And what works is this: like, first of all, stepping back and saying, why does 2022? Why is it going to be different than 2021 for you? Like, why does it matter? And really understanding that, because nothing changes until you really have an understanding of that. Nothing's going to change. You might have good intentions, but if you don't really know why you're going to move from point A to point B, you're less likely to ever move. So we're traveling along a path. And again, guys, I'll give this disclaimer. I'm at the house today. So if you hear a bunch of kids, I've been open about how my kids on social media, that's the highlight reel. I've told you guys that. So if you hear a bunch of dysfunctional kids, just, hey, no judgment. I already let you know that the posts are just, it's to make it look good, right? But the reality is you've got to understand why you're going to pay the price. And the ones that do the best, they have clarity on why they're going to sacrifice and get after it. They have an understanding and it's on the forefront of their mind on why they're going to do things that are uncomfortable. Because by nature, every one of us, we're motivated to stay in the comfort zone. You're motivated to go back to what's familiar and what you're used to. And so the ones that go out there and have a big year, I can guarantee you one thing: they're going to have a lot of uncomfortable moments. They're going to have a year that was the most uncomfortable year that they've ever had. They're going to have a year that had more sacrifices in it than they've ever had before. And that's the fact. There's not going to be like it just happened. There's going to be things where we could go through. If we interviewed them, we would say specifically, they'd say, I got uncomfortable here. I got uncomfortable here. I sacrificed this. I spent less time with these people. I stopped drinking. I stopped partying. I stopped doing this. They're going to have things that they stopped doing. And there's going to be some things that were very uncomfortable that they started to do. Now, everybody has those things. Every one of you on here has that. Every one of you on here has a list of things that if you stop doing, or a list of people, if you stop speaking with as much or spend as much time with, or whether that's a Netflix show or TV, there's certain things consumption-wise that if you limited, it would empower you to make choices that would elevate you to where you say you want to go. And there's also, every one of you on here has a list of things that if you did them, they would put you in a position that would align you with the assignment you have this year to see the success you want. That's a fact. If we look at somebody that's successful, guys, there's never a mystery to it. Now, sometimes we try to make it mystical. Like, I don't know how, or maybe they're special, or maybe they got the good leads, or maybe they're just this natural talent and ability, or whatever it is. We try to do that. Or somebody, really just had a terrible year. It's no mystery. I could specifically, deliberately tell you exactly why, which is a beautiful thing. Meaning that every one of you on here, wherever you end up at the end of the year, it's not going to be a mystery. There's not going to be like, I don't know how that happened. I can tell you how it's going to happen. So what I want to help you guys with is this understanding that, for one, I think that when we have a clear understanding of what we have our hands on, we're less likely to take it for granted and squander it. Every one of you have been given the same benefit, the same gift that is really incredible. To be able to be in a business that didn't take you $100,000 to start, to be in a business where you can turn a profit your first week, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. And be clear, sometimes I get taken away from that concept and reality and the truth in that. When I talk to an agent, they're like, I just don't know how I'm going to come up with some lead money. I'm thinking like, and then I start trying to like talk to them about that. And the reality is like, what are we talking about? Then go get a job. Like, if you knew without a doubt that you were going to make $400,000 this year, but you got to come up with $1,000, would you really not be able to figure that out? The answer is no, guys. I mean, this is what I mean by this. It's perspective. I've got 5 kids. If I was starting out at 19 years old, no money in my account, and I want to say, I mean none, zero. We had my first daughter. God forbid if this happened, which it didn't, but the doctor said your daughter's got an illness. It's terminal. You need $1,000 to take care of it. Easy medication. It'll fix it. Do you think there's any way I wouldn't come up with $1,000? Would you? Is there anyone of you on here who would say, man, I couldn't. I just couldn't do it? Of course you could. So what is the variant then? What's the variable? Well, it's your belief level. It's you understanding what you have your hands on. The fact is, there's not any company in America that has this many people making $100,000 a year. That's a fact. We're now the number 1 company in America with this many people making 6 figures. And we've been here for like 8 years, guys. And really, the last 2 years is when all this stuff has come to fruition. The first 5, 6 years, it was just hell. You know what I mean? I mean, it just was. I lived it. I was there day one. paying $18,000 a month in legal fees, doing mail drops, spending $10,000 a week, hoping that in 4 weeks I had some kind of good percentage return back to go eventually get my money back when I put in. Ton of money on credit cards, everything else. Doing paper applications. I was talking to somebody the other day. I was like, dude, there's e-apps now. How crazy is that? Like, I remember when I had to have staff. My first staff was just to QC my applications and to send them in and to follow up with my clients because there was no e-apps. So my full-time assistant would QC my stuff, make sure they can read my writing and rewrite it, because if I sent it in, which I did my first week, I sent in my apps, and then I called the underwriters mad because I didn't get paid. And they're like, hey, fool, we can't underwrite what we can't read. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you write like a 4-year-old. Like, what are you talking about? We can't read it. So I had to hire an assistant just to rewrite my apps because I can't write at all. Send them in and follow up. Now it's just like instant approval. We used to have paper contracts. You know, we contract 15 people a week. I had to have 2 people in contracting just to submit them and follow up to make sure, because you know how many agents would miss a bubble and we'd have to get it sent back and I mean, it was different. But what you have your hands on right now is incredible. Now, every one of you has got different reasons of what's going to cause you to move from where you're at to where you want to go. You have to keep those in front of you. Like, I wanted financial freedom like I wanted to breathe. I mean, I wanted to be in a spot where I could do what I wanted to do with my kids and my family without it being dependent on what my bank account looked like. I wanted to be able to go create memories and include my family and my wife's parents, my parents, to be able to go do certain things. I wanted to donate a 6-figure check to the church. And this last year, I almost donated close to $200,000 to the church and to different charities. That's what it's about, not just what that did and the salvations. And I'm not trying to prove, but like, for me, that's what mattered. To me, that fills me up. To be able to provide for my mom and get her a house and get her a car, those kind of things, those filled me up. To be able to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. Now, I knew that's a big reward. That's a big benefit. What does that mean? Guys, it means that it carries a big price tag. It means it carries a big amount of sacrifice. So when I woke up at 4 a.m. and I wasn't used to doing it, I thought about financial freedom. When I didn't want to dial at 9 o'clock at night, I thought about financial freedom. When I didn't want to go out and hire 2-3 staff because it was so uncomfortable, because I didn't even know how to manage myself at 19 years old, to hire somebody that was 40, because that's who my first assistant was, and to work with him, that was uncomfortable. To go and drive 3.5 hours to Bakersfield and run appointments every single week, that was uncomfortable. To have less leads come in 1 week and say, what do? Just come up with an excuse and say, hey, I didn't have enough leads in Bakersfield this week, so that's why my production was lower. Or look at the CRM and say, well, there's enough in Modesto, California. It's 5.5 hours. I'm just gonna have to leave my house at 2 a.m. instead of 4. That was a sacrifice. To me, I was excited about that because I knew I was paying the price to get the reward that I really wanted. Now, I could have let my emotions have the best of me if I didn't have the payoff in front of me. So if I didn't know I was working my way towards financial freedom, which it wasn't right away. I mean, it took probably, I don't know, 9 years. Now it's a different environment. Heck, nowadays it takes 2 years. We got tons of people where it took 2 years. We say, well, and I can just tell you the first 9 years when I was in the business, nobody was attaining financial freedom. Now, most people that are putting that same sacrifice in, they're all getting it. And we have like 36 people that are making $1 million a year now, and most of them started with FFL within the last 4 years. It's a different environment. And we've overtaken the financial insurance industry. Nobody's got lead strategy like we've got. I mean, we never had a CRM the way we've got. Virtual sales, telesales, the training, the new agent boot camps, the business building boot camps, the systems of support, the marketing exposure. I mean, it's a perfect storm. What I'm saying is this. First of all, you got to have your reasons dialed in. You got to keep them in front of you, because it's going to be painful. Once you have your goals in front of you, you can work it backwards. So if I want to talk to Rami and I interview him and we do a podcast, I kind of know what he's going to talk about because it's a recipe. So Rami's like, man, I invest $1,500 a week in leads. I'm like, oh, wait, I can't believe, is that what works? I'm like, yeah, that's what works. Or he's like, man, I just dial until I hit my appointment goal. I'm not like surprised. Like, that's what works. So the recipe is laid out there for everybody. When Christina talks about how many people she hires, I'm not confused that she posts on social media all day. I'm not like, oh my God, that's what works. We know it works. Why? Because we're on podcast. We hear it. So most of you know what to do. It's just that doing part. And the doing part, a lot of times, it requires sacrifice and accountability. So if we're not doing what we know to do, what do we operate out of? What we feel like doing. What we feel like doing. Like you don't feel like waking up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. But if I tie my mindset and really sell myself on the benefits and the fruit of waking up at 4 or 5 a.m. and what that's going to lead to and the advantage I've got over everybody else and what I'm telling myself, how much I deserve more and that I'm going to probably sell more because I know I deserve more. So when I sit with a client, I'll be more confident because I know I woke up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And I don't care if you guys know, I know. Greg, it don't matter if anybody else knows, you know. So if that's the case, then it's worth it. So it still sucks, but I'm able to say real quick when I start to feel like, man, I just want to go back to bed, I start to realize like, no, this is worth it. This is worth it. And then I have a strategy and I execute on my strategy. I pound a bottle of water, like a beer bong, you know what I mean? So it hydrates me and it's hard to go back to bed after you crush a bottle of water as if you were doing, a beer bong. So you're awake now. But I'm willing to do that kind of stuff because I know what it's going to lead to. And so once you've got your goals in mind, you want to work it backwards. You want to know where you're currently at. So you want to assess. Most everybody on it needs to interrogate your reality. Where am I currently at? Why am I there? What am I writing in personal production? I'm writing 10 grand. Well, what's the most important thing you could do to write 20? Do you really want to write 20? Or do you want to write 40? If you're writing 20, you should write 40. So why should I write 40? Why would you not write 40? It's $28,000 in additional income. It ain't that much more work. But what are we talking about here? I mean, I remember, and this is one of those things where it's like keeping the right perspective. Like I was talking to Andrew, I remember a while back, and I was in this mode of just like, I had like some chargebacks and some no-shows, and and he's like, dude, think about this. I was just talking to my brother, Nick, and he was talking about how he was just getting off of work. It was 6 a.m. He was driving back from the Walmart distribution center where he was working graveyard, making $15 an hour. So he's driving an hour and a half to go to work, working graveyard, driving back at 6 a.m., making $15 an hour. I'm over here driving in my air-conditioned car, listening to a podcast that helps me become a better person, better dad, a better spouse. It helps me elevate my thought process, belief systems, value-based, because that's what this business does. It's a lot of personal growth and time. I'm listening to that, and I'm thinking like, I'm complaining about 5 no-shows and 4 no-sales and 3 cancels. Like, that's the way it should be. I shouldn't have weeks where it sucks like that because the benefit's so good. It should be like that. Now, my response is going to determine if I get something from that and I can grow from that, but it should be like that. Why would it not be like that every once in a while? So when you sit back and you put together your game plan, put together your schedule. If you need to get more leads, get more leads. Don't wait to feel like getting more leads. If you don't feel like getting more leads, thank God. That means you're growing. And if you're growing, guess what? Thank God. This week will be better than last week. I hated last week. Well, then are you going to do the thing that's uncomfortable? Because that's the only way you're going to make a better week. Are you going to do something different? Are you going to make an adjustment and change? So now I got more leads. When are you going to dial? Well, I usually get to the office at 9. All right, well, most successful people in FFL get to the office at 7. Could you do that? I don't know if I want to. But then stop talking about being committed, because you're just interested. You're interested in the idea of being successful. You're interested in the idea of being a top producer, but you're not committed. Because the reality is this: if you're committed, the results will show, because it's a recipe. You cannot do the disciplines that the successful people do and not see success. It's an impossibility. Now I'm talking long term. I'm not talking 2 days. You know, this agent like, man, but I'm telling you, I invested the right amount of leads and I was down at 7 a.m. and it just didn't work. I'm like, dude, how about you just shut your mouth while you're talking to me? I love you, but it's been 1 day. Like, do you know how you sound right now? That's like you've been eating like crap for freaking 6 years, not working out. You call up the personal trainer like, you are a liar. I ate vegetables all day, worked out twice because I heard 2 a day accelerates it, and I don't have a 6-pack. That guy should punch you in your freaking mouth. That's what he should do. And then that's what should happen. Just because he likes you and he wants you to know, like, you're never going to become an adult with that thought process. So it's going to take a period of time. Obviously, there's a process to be had. Of course there is. But determine new disciplines. So 7 a.m., I'm going to get to the office, start down. I'm going to dial 3 times back to back. I'm going to be convinced that everybody needs life insurance. So if they don't book an appointment, I'm not going to let that influence my perspective on it. Every lead is a family, and every family needs life insurance. So even if they hang up or whatever, that just means they're having an off day, which happens. My first sale that I ever made in my business, the guy cussed at me, yelled at me. I felt like I was emotionally abused. I was going to go check myself into a domestic violence shelter. I felt like I was just battered. And then I just called him 2 days later. No kidding, honest God, true story. I didn't read my note that said, don't call back. And I called back, I booked an appointment. I sold it. I promise God, it's a true story. I don't know what happened the first time I called him. Maybe he had a bad day. Him and his wife were in a big fight. I don't know. But what I do know is stuff happens. I don't know if the day I called him 2 days later, his sister got diagnosed with, I don't know where it made it real. I don't know. But what I do know is it doesn't matter. What I do know is that when I call my leads, this will be the first time I'm ever going to make my mind up that when the client is not going to influence and dictate how I see a lead. How I see a lead is it's a family, they need help and protection. So I'm going to keep my mind focused on it the whole time. I'm not going to look up, and I'm not going to stop dialing until I hit my goal, or it's 9 o'clock at night. Because that's what it takes. Oh, you want to have a lot of money? You want to make a difference in your family's life? Well, you want to pay the price. Are you going to do this? I always thought it was interesting when people would hear Mark Mead talk about how he got out of debt and he paid off $100,000 in debt in his first year. And they'd be like, man, I want to do that. It's like, oh, you do? You do want to do that. Well, Mark ran 45 appointments a week. Mark didn't stop down until 9 o'clock at night every single time. Mark, for a full year, never stepped into his door if it was earlier than 9 o'clock at night. Do you want to do that? Mark didn't see his family for about a year. Do you want to do that? Oh, but I want to pay off $100,000 in debt because I've been in a bad spot. Well, you want to do what Mark did? Now he went to his family in church and all on Sunday, but Monday through Friday, he was gone. Saturday up until 6 o'clock at night. You want to do that? Mark didn't watch TV. Mark watched nothing but podcasts. Do you want to do that? Mark door knocked between appointments. So what I'm saying is, like, guys, there's a price to be paid. Is it worth it? Are you kidding me? In a year, Mark didn't have to have that yoke, that burden of that debt resting upon him, and how that affected his ability to be who he was at his home, thinking about that all the time. The emotional taxation of all that. Of course it was worth it. But it took a lot of uncomfortability, right? And then next year, he put it all back in. Wrote the same amount of business, didn't have the debt to clear, but hired staff, recruiters, and got uncomfortable. Mark never had a business like that. So I want to do that. But do you want to do what he did? right? Because you're going to choose your hard this year. What hard are you going to choose? So, man, it sucks to have to drive all the way out there and have a day where I don't sell nothing. Okay, no, it doesn't. That's a good thing. It builds some character. How are you responding from it? I remember the day I had that happen, that's how my phone screw got so good. I had 9 no-shows in a row. If I didn't have 9 no-shows in a row, I would have never took the time to listen to my phone script and realize, become aware of the fact that I sucked. I thought I was good on the phones. I thought I said it just like they said it. And I had 9 no-shows. I'm like, I got to listen to my phone script. I listened to it back, and I literally threw up in my mouth because I was like, I sound like that. That's how I sound. I said it like that. My tone was like that. My speed was like that. My posture was like that. And I made adjustments that it took me from an average of a show ratio of 65% to 90. So that one terrible day or week or whatever actually made me probably $1 million in income the next 10 years in sales because of how many more people I sat with that I normally would have sat with. There's always something good. So as you move forward throughout the year, whenever something takes place, your response is, I'm a business owner. I'm responsible. It's my business, nobody else's. This isn't Maurice's business. It's your business. Maurice's business is her business, not my business. I'm here to be a great counselor, coach, supporter, to help shine some light on it, but it's your business. So whatever you deal with and go through it as if you are already going to win, and you're the person that's going to figure out a way to make it when you win no matter what. You have 7 chargebacks and you got a -$5,000, great, good. What are you going to do about it? What's your response? What are you going to learn from it? You know, if you're given much, much is required. The benefit is so good. Well, there's going to be some times like that. But when that happens, are you going to go back to default and run it back to comfortability? Are you going to make your mind up and predetermine today that when that happens, my response is I'm going to find the good in it. I'm going to take something from it and make it better. I remember when we started FFL, you know, having to deal with litigation and no leads, all those kind of things. And instead of getting bitter, I got better. I figured out a way, like, I got to wake up earlier, do some things. And I figured there was more in me than I thought there was. And I was able to go out and write $50,000 a month in personal sales every month that I didn't think I could do, because it forced me to either run away and say, this is not going to work out. I got all this 18 grand in lawsuits, all this stuff, or I'm going to stand, fight, find out how to tweak, adjust. There's definitely a way to be successful, definitely a way to get through all this. And that 50 grand a month, I learned that I could do it. And that led me to doing it every year, developing the discipline. So when the litigation went away, what remained was who I became, the character that was developed in all that. And that was priceless. It was absolutely priceless. And so that's how we got to respond throughout this year. Know where you're at and where you want to go. The strategy, you should understand how to get there, but make your mind up on what you're going to respond and how you're going to respond to it as adversity comes your way. Because it will, but who cares? What does it matter in the scope of things? And see, this is how I look at it. I was going to spend 4 years going to college to get a degree, to probably make no money and end up on my mom's couch, which is what all my friends seem like they did. So if I had a bad week or a bad month, what does it matter? In the scope of like this being my career where I'm going to be massively successful, and knowing that this isn't that deep, it's phones, leads, in-home, and as bad as I am now, I'm going to progressively get better, and eventually I'm going to be an expert. Once I'm an expert, I'm going to be wealthy. What does it matter? And then when things took place, my question always was, what does this mean? If I have 9 no-shows, what does it mean? It means that I could take a step back and figure out how to get better. It means that I probably need to be more, build more value and establish more urgency on the phones. Maybe it means I need to ask better questions. Maybe it means I need to use more of the herding concept. What does this mean? Perspective. You know, the reality is this. Adversity, struggle, setbacks, what that can be taken as for most people is like, oh my gosh, this isn't going to work. Or you get filled with doubt, discouragement. To me, it was like, no, what does this mean? It means that I need to tweak, adjust, and get better. So go throughout the year and ask yourself, what does it matter? That's perspective. right? Or what does it matter? That's priorities in the scope of things. What does it really matter? My priority is to be successful, to do this, do this. What does it matter? And what does it mean? That's perspective. What the enemy meant it for bad, I can use it and mean it for good. Because I'm not trying to preach you, but God works all things together for good if you see it as good. Now, there's other books that will say every seed of adversity brings with it the equivalent or greater benefit, right? I mean, the same thing. It's just the universe, using the universe or whatever to articulate it. But the reality is that's just the way it is. And so going throughout this year, realizing that you could have a massive year, guys. There's people on here that are going to be a Hall of Fame producer. They're going to make more money than they've ever made before in their life. There's going to be people here that never thought they could run a business that would provide $500,000 a year in income, $1 million a year in income. They never thought they could. There's people on here that they're going to live that at the end of the year. And there's some people on here that are going to stay in their comfort zone and just kind of get by for the year. It's up to you to choose which way you end up. And it's going to be completely dependent on your choices. What I would encourage you to do, because the business FFL is so fruitful right now that the work you put in, it's going to produce a greater return and a greater harvest than what you sowed. Now, that being said, you could sow very little and get by, and you shouldn't be getting by, you should be dying. But because of the bigger harvest and what's sown concept, because of the timing, you look at the reports and numbers, like it's insane. It's just like people are flooding in to join the company. Leads are through the roof. But that being said, you're going to have this temptation to either just become complacent or to be driven and get your self-image from putting together a very planful schedule, knowing that this strategy is going to take you to where you want to go, and getting your self-esteem from execution in those time blocks. The same thing is this. Last thing I'll say is, in the morning, you got to personally grow and develop. For some of you, you're going to start making way more money than you've ever made. And all of a sudden, things are going to happen that you're not going to understand. Like, man, why did I have 2 terrible weeks? Why did nobody pick up? Or why did all these people fall off? Or why did this happen? And what's happening is the thermostat concept. You've not grown your personal self. You're not internally grown to a level that's able to sustain and grow the external rewards and results that you're starting to experience. You look at lottery winners and they say like 90% of them go bankrupt after 24 months. Why is that? Because their thermostat is set at making $50,000 a year. And when they get paid $20 million, they figure out a way to blow it as fast as possible to get back to their comfort level of $50,000 a year. Just like a thermostat, it could set at 70 degrees and the window opens up and it's super hot out and it blows it up to 90 degrees. AC kicks on, brings it down to 70. That's how we work. And that's why we got to continue to grow and develop. So what I'd encourage you to do is look at your association. Who do you need to spend less time with this year? What things are feeding your heart from your consumption, whether that's TV, social media, Netflix, whatever, that you can spend less time with, that's not going to set yourself up to become the best version of who you want to become. And stepping back and saying, let me put in podcasts. Because association is through reading, books, podcasts, video, audio, conversations, people you're talking to, but also you can find somebody through podcasts and all the stuff that they do too. That could be one of your associations. And you take the 5 people you spend most of the time with, that's what your income is going to look like. You can say, well, I can't go hang out with Nina and Hayden. Oh yeah, you can. You hop on a podcast. That's you spending time with them. You're around their thought process, their belief system. You're going to start emulating, thinking more in their likeness if you do that. So in the morning, having a regimen, waking up earlier, that's one of the first disciplines that will help most people. Reading, affirmations, visualizations, thinking about your day, seeing where you want to go and how you're going to get there, perceiving your responses to adversity, all those kind of things, having the right vision of it. See, a man without vision will perish. Any man, any woman without vision will perish. You've got to have hope in what you're trying to get after. If not, and you have no hope, you're going to live in discouragement, disappointment, and hopelessness. And that's no way to live. We were created to hope, to foresee a positive future, and let that move our feelings and feet in the right direction, opposed to waking up and just living the same way as we did before because we're just embodying the feelings of the past. Well, I didn't do that good last week. I didn't do that. We'll start seeing in the future and being moved by that. So having a daily routine where you can empower yourself and equip yourself, because you got what it takes to be successful, but you got to believe it without a doubt that you can be. If not, your actions are going to show your level of belief in yourself. Borrow the belief from all the success that you see everybody having, in that nothing they're doing is special, and then seeing a successful future. And this is the year, guys. This is the time to attack this thing. This is the time to blow it up. So I hope that helps. I apologize for going on. I didn't even know what time it was. And so, Marisa, thank you for having me on. I appreciate you allowing me to hop on with you guys, and hope this serves you well.
Thanks so much for being on today, Paul. We appreciate you so much. Have a great rest of the day.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah. All right, guys. So hearing from Paul McClain each and every time truly it's a pleasure, because as much as, you know, this business is simple, it's not always easy. And I feel like Paul just gave all of us some very practical steps that we can take to make sure that we're ensuring that we're going to be successful. You know, so if you don't know where you're going, you know, if you're on the way to your appointment and you're like, oh, I think it's, you know, I think I hop on 95 North. It's like, you think, or you know, right? When you're going to your client's house, you know the address, you plug it into the GPS. What are you going to do this year? What are you going to do this month? What are you going to change? All of these small things that Paul just hit on are what actually matters in the grand scheme of this business. Because coming into this business at 19 years old, I learned fast that I wasn't as adult as I thought I was, in the essence of I still have a lot of growing to do now, but at 19, I had a lot more growing to do, right? And I love the aspect of, if you don't have a vision, like this isn't, it's not going to work. If you don't think you're good enough or you're worthy or you deserve what this opportunity and platform has, it's not going to work. And what I can tell each and every one of you guys is that you do have the ability to do this. Like I know pretty much everybody on this call I've at least spoken to bare minimally at least one time. And I know you all have the ability to do it. It's about what are the small tweaks and adjustments that are going to help us get there. You know, at 19, 20, 21 in this industry, my motto till this day is life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So get comfortable being uncomfortable. And the reason for that was because the only time that I started seeing any type of progress in this business was when I got comfortable being uncomfortable. I got comfortable doing door knocks. I got uncomfortable talking to, you know, the neighbor who's like, oh, I don't think Jeff's home. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I was just going to help him out with his life insurance. Have you already gotten yours taken care of? It's a direct, you're already there. It's the little tiny things. It's the waking up earlier. It's the making the dials. It's making sure that you have enough leads before you get to dial day. It's making sure you know what your schedule actually looks like. But with that being said, I do want to go ahead and jump into some quick recognition. And while we're having Christina kind of get that set up here, I will go ahead and also mention this marks week 1 of January 2022, or week 1 of the year, ends as of yesterday. So week 2 does start today, and every week starts on a Thursday, ends on a Wednesday. Anybody who's new on this call, in terms of the Family First Life week, it starts on Thursday and it ends on Wednesday. So week 2 is going to be today until the 12th. And essentially, we want to make sure that we are noting that it is a 4-week turn-in. So December was a 5-week turn-in. January will be a 4-week turn-in, which is a very normal turn-in. So just make sure that you're keeping tabs on that as well. One thing I do want to quickly mention is that we're in the new year. And if we are tweaking and adjusting that schedule, at the top of every single Wednesday, just writing like week 1 turn in, week 2 turn in, final turn in of January. Things like that are going to help you because they're helping you pace without you even knowing it. Because you open your plan or your schedule, you're looking at it, it's going to help you pace and it's going to help you set. So just put that on your schedule. Like, I'm obnoxious about it. The first thing I'm writing in there is like week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, but not because I don't know that the week starts on Thursday and ends on Wednesday, but because I can make sure that come Thursday, I know what week I'm going into. So Happy New Year to all of you guys. It was an amazing 2021. I'm super excited to see an even better 2022 for everybody on this call. So Christina, if you could go ahead and hit that slide. And shout out to top issue paid producer, which is Miss Yori Her, for weeks 1 to 4 of December. Yori at about 54,000, not surprised, but just way to set the pace, Yori. Just super proud of you, super proud of how hard you work each and every week, each and every month. You don't make excuses, and you are definitely committed, not interested. So love it. And shout out to the top 5 producers for December week 1 to 4. So Zach H at about 19.6, myself at about 20, Christopher Shin at 31.5, Rami Hamadi, and Rami just came into this business. Actually, this is a part-time, 4-week turn-in for Rami. So it's like part-time. Rami issued $35,000 and now is coming into the business full-time as of the new year. So super excited for you, Rami, as you know. And then Miss Yuri Her at 53,800. So super proud of all of you guys. And congratulations to newly licensed agents this past week, Natasha M. and Jane N. Welcome to the team. Super excited to have you guys. Biggest thing that you can do right now is move fast and break things. Just get out there, get on the phones, make a mess, learn lessons. That's what this is all about. Again, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Way to go, guys. And top producer for week 4, I think that this is supposed to be for the weekend, is myself at 5,700. Definitely not proud of that. So we're going to hop off to the next slide. And I do want to go ahead and welcome to the team FFL Silver State, Miss Teresa Amara Pridadona. So coming into this business, I'm just really excited to be working with Teresa and to have her as a part of our group now, because coming into Family First Life, as most of you guys know, I've been in the business for some time, but I did work with 2 practice companies. And when I was looking at FFL, I was looking at Teresa because she was at the time a female who was producing at a very high level. And again, now we're talking about, 2-3 years ago. And I remember just like clocking her, thinking like, wow, she's a beast. Like I would watch her trainings and things of that sort. And now being able to have her on the team is just really, really exciting. So I'm just super excited to be in business with Teresa, with everybody on FFL Silver State. So welcome, and I'm excited to be working and partnering together. And how do we take your business to the next level? Okay, couple of things if we haven't done this already. Work spots. If you don't have work spots, you're losing money. Call your upline and tell them, hi, I'm losing money because I don't have work spots, okay? If you don't know what work spots is, please reach out to your upline. Please reach out to me directly. I'd love to talk to you about it, or just essentially help you understand exactly what it is and what it does. First and foremost, it's going to give you access to any office around the country, whether that's the office that's 30 minutes away from you or an hour from you, or it's you do a lot of travel trips and you're in and out of offices. It's going to make sure you always have that home base, that place that you can always go, as well as also giving you lead discounts. So if you don't have this, that's why I say you're losing money, because you're losing money through the association that you could have if you go to an office, And also, you're losing money, a lot of money, if you're not using the discount codes for leads. So if you don't have work spots, please get your work spots, codes now. And this is huge, and I will continue to bring it up until it's here. And I know for the most part, you guys hear this each and every week, but registering for annual convention, like this is so excited. I know that I'm excited. I know Yori's excited. And I know Zach's excited. There's a list of names I could go down. I know Christina is super excited. Judy Watson, super excited. If you're not going to be at this event, it's not like, oh, you're missing out from what I have to say. No. You're missing out to what the best people in this whole entire industry, because as we just heard Paul, FFL is the biggest IMO in the United States by a landslide. And that is not like me saying that like, oh, that's my personal opinion. No, like the numbers don't lie. By literally a landslide. Like that's why you often hear Sean say, like, the alleged competition. Sean is a very humble person. He's just saying that, if you're in the 6th grade and you play basketball, and then you put somebody, next to a senior in college who's playing basketball, like the 6th grader, doesn't really have a shot, right? That's not your competition. That's a 6th grader, right? That would be kind of mean of the person in college. Get around the people who are been doing this for a little while. Get around the brand new producer that came in and hit the ground running. Get around the person who had awful habits and now has wonderful habits, and that's what changed their business. Get around the people who, maybe they were anxious in the beginning. Maybe they were really, really just unwilling to get uncomfortable, and then they made a couple of tweaks and adjustments, and now their business is booming. Get there to get around that association, but also it's a free event. At both of my practice companies, this event would have costed minimally $1,500. It's free. It's free. So get there, at least register. So www.fflconvention.com. If you have not hit the done button on that yet, that's why I'm still bringing that up on this call. No, I'm just kidding. I'll bring it up anyways. But please hit the done button on that. Make plans accordingly. It's about a month out now, so we want to make sure that we're actually taking this serious. If this is your career, why would you not go to your career's biggest event of the year, where you're going to get all of the information from all of the different resources around the country? So please get yourself there. And as you guys are on this call right now, that means you probably plug into training. If you don't, you should start for sure. The weekly training schedule, so making sure that if you're dialing, you hop on the dial team. Even if when I say hop on the dial team, sometimes it can be confusing. If you're dialing the phone on a Monday or Thursday morning, and you're just dialing, but maybe you're brand new, maybe you're getting started, maybe you've worked here for as long as I have. Either way, hop on there, show your face, keep your camera on, mute yourself out, mute your computer, and just dial. Because it's going to hold you more accountable than you might think. And you never know who you can help on that dial team. Even if it's like, you hear somebody and they're like, they're dialing and they get a rebuttal that maybe you got really good at overcoming. You can maybe suggest that, and that could change that person's phone game, that can help them believe more in themselves. So get on the dial team, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. The TNL, on Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, that should be a non-negotiable. Like, you need to be on that call. This call, the team call, if you want to stay, zoned in with the team, which if you're on this team, hopefully that's the case. You want to make sure you don't miss this call, that you're putting it, again, going back to your schedule. It's in your schedule. You already know you have to do it. It's a non-negotiable. So make sure you're paying attention to that training schedule. One thing I did in the beginning to make sure I was hopping on all the trainings was I set an alarm clock 10 minutes before the training on my phone, and it would reoccur weekly until I knew when to get on those calls. And it helped me out a lot, because sometimes they just be like, oh, I missed the call. Well, I'm like, oh, well, like, how unscheduled are you? And or go ahead and put an alarm on your phone if you're really forgetful. So plug into the training. That's how you win here. All right. And then just to kind of wrap the call up, I know it's getting late, but does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, anything that they want to point out? Please feel free to unmute yourself.
Hey, Marissa, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Eddie?
Good, good. Thank you so much. So I just passed my licensing and everything, so I'm waiting for the licensing, get contracting, and get started on this. Just have a quick question for you. Apparently, you've been doing this for quite a bit now, right? So there's a lot of things that separates, somebody who's producing well in this business and somebody who's not producing well, right? What would you say the main bullet point of somebody that you just look at and they're going to do super well starting off with this business, right? What would you say that makes you say that about them, right? Like, what is it that you think that's going to make them super successful?
I would say if I had only one thing that I could pick, I would say having non-negotiables. And what I mean by that,
can you elaborate on that? Yeah, please.
Yeah, what I mean by that is having non-negotiables, like dial team starts at 8 o'clock. I'm on the dial team. It's not a negotiation. I'm not negotiating with, my husband, wife, kid, boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever it might be. I'm on that dial team, even when I don't want to get out of bed. Making sure that you go to every appointment that you set up. Dialing until you have the right amount of appointments. So those type of non-negotiables, so to say, so things that you're just not willing to negotiate, that's going to be the biggest difference between somebody who does see success and somebody who doesn't. And small things such as self-belief, most of us, we're human. There's going to be times that we doubt ourselves, we have self-doubt, and that's normal to an extent. But also just borrowing the belief of others. So non-negotiables like listening to podcasts, plugging into the trainings. So really just following the system and being systematic is really the difference between a top producer and somebody who produces and writes one policy a month. Because what I always say, Eddie, is there's really not a whole lot of a middle playing ground there. It's like you either write, $1 to $5 grand a month, or you write, 20 to 100 grand a month. And like Paul said, if you go back and you listen to the podcast or you're doing a podcast with somebody, you'll always hear pretty much the same exact thing, but it's just being reiterated, and it's always coming back to those non-negotiables of protecting the dial time, protecting your mindset, and just making sure you're pushing through those uncomfortable moments. So I hope that makes sense.
So from what I heard is just 100% commitment, right? And not just to be interested, but to be invested as well in all of it. That makes sense. Thank you so much, Marissa. And this is great because I'm starting off here real soon, and I do think I have the qualifications and everything that I need to go through this. So hopefully I'll be starting out great as well. So
awesome. Well, super excited to have you, Eddie. And I'm no doubt in my mind you're gonna crush it, man.
Thank you.
You got it. All right. And anybody else?
I'll share something.
Go for it.
just to touch on, Eddie had pointed out, what is it that you need to do? Something that you've shared with me, Marissa, it kind of hit home. I thought I had to have some kind of talent. I had to do certain things, but it came down to consistency, right? If you can do everything you just mentioned, no matter what level, and just do it consistently, you'll find that success there. I feel like just diving into it, and like you said, having those non-negotiables, and each and every week, being there, showing up, being consistent. Yeah, give it a few months and you'll figure it out very quickly.
Amen. It's all about consistency. Exactly. Thank you, Zach, for sharing. Appreciate it. All right. And anybody else that wants questions, comments, concerns, anything at all? All right, perfect. Well, I hope you guys have an amazing, Thursday dial day. Please reach out if you need me. And welcome to 2022. Let's crush this thing. I appreciate you all. Thank you.